Hey everyone, I'm not really sure how to start this. My name's Jake, and until a few days ago, I thought my wife, Laura, was the kind of woman people would call perfect. She was an elementary school teacher, patient, caring, and absolutely adored by her students and their parents. We'd been married for 8 years, and I thought we had the kind of relationship you only see in movies. She made me believe that life was stable and good. Laura loved her job, or at least I thought she did. She came home every day with stories about her students, how they'd given her little drawings, told her funny jokes, or aced their spelling tests. She seemed happy, content. I had no reason to doubt her. I work in construction, so my days are long and exhausting. But I've always been a family man, someone who believed in loyalty and honesty. I thought Laura felt the same way. Turns out I was wrong. A few weeks ago, my best friend Rob suggested we hit up a strip club while he was in town. I immediately brushed him off. That's not my scene, and I hadn't set foot in a place like that since college. But Rob kept pushing, saying, "Come on, Jake, you've been working your butt off. You need to have some fun for once." I told him no, but the idea nagged at me. Not because I wanted to go, but because I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something spontaneous. Laura had been working late a lot lately, grading papers, she said, and it seemed harmless to go out with Rob for one night. Against my better judgment, I caved. When we walked into the club, it was sensory overload, neon lights, pounding music, and people cheering as dancers performed on stage. Rob ordered a drink and started joking around, but I felt awkward. This wasn't my world. I kept thinking about how Laura would probably kill me if she knew I was there. About an hour in, Rob nudged me. "Hey man," he said, grinning. "Check out the new girl." I glanced up at the stage and my heart stopped. It was Laura, my wife. I couldn't process what I was seeing. She was wearing almost nothing, her hair and makeup done in a way I'd never seen before, dancing with a confidence that didn't feel like her at all. For a second, I thought I was losing my mind. This couldn't be real. Laura was a teacher, a woman who spent her days helping kids, not this. But it was her. There was no mistaking it. Rob noticed my reaction and frowned. "Jake? Dude, are you okay?" That's my wife," I managed to choke out, my voice barely audible. "What?" Rob laughed, clearly thinking I was joking. But when he saw the look on my face, his smile vanished. "Holy crap, man, are you serious?" I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking, my stomach twisting into knots. I felt sick, betrayed, and utterly humiliated. I didn't know what to do, whether to confront her right then and there or to leave and pretend I'd never seen it. Before I could decide, Laura finished her set and disappeared backstage. I grabbed Rob's arm. "We need to leave," I said, my voice cold. He didn't argue. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Laura on that stage, dancing under those neon lights like she wasn't the same woman who kissed me goodbye every morning. My mind raced with questions I didn't want the answers to. Why was she there? How long had this been going on? And most of all, how could she have hidden this from me? The next morning, I waited until she came into the kitchen. She looked like her usual self, sweatpants, messy bun, sipping coffee like she didn't have a care in the world. It made me sick. "I know," I said, my voice low but firm. She froze mid-sip, her eyes darting to mine. "Know what?" she asked, her tone cautious. "Don't play dumb, Laura," I snapped. "I saw you last night, at the club." Her face went pale, and she set her mug down with trembling hands. "Jake, I can explain." "Explain?" I laughed bitterly. "You're a teacher, Laura, or at least I thought you were. What the hell were you doing there?" She looked down at the table, her voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't been teaching for months." I stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean you haven't been teaching? You leave every morning. You come home late, saying you're grading papers or doing parent meetings." "I lost my job," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. There was an incident with a parent. One of the moms accused me of something inappropriate. My mind reeled. What kind of incident? It wasn't anything like that, she said quickly. She said I was getting too close, that I was crossing boundaries. But it wasn't true, Jake. She was the one who came on to me. I blinked, trying to process her words. So you got fired? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. She went to the school board. They believed her. I didn't know what to do, Jake. I didn't want to tell you because I felt like such a failure. So your solution was to start working at a strip club, I shouted, my voice shaking with anger. How does that make any sense? She offered me a job, Laura said, her voice breaking. That mom, her name's Vanessa. After I got fired, she reached out. She said she could help me make money, that she knew how hard things were for us. My stomach dropped. You mean the same woman who got you fired? Laura nodded, looking ashamed. She said it would just be for a little while, until I figured things out. I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And what else did Vanessa offer you, Laura? Because I can't imagine this was just about the money. Laura's silence was deafening. Answer me, I demanded. Were you sleeping with her? It's not what you think, she said, her voice trembling. Vanessa. She's persuasive. I was vulnerable, Jake. I didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't mean for it to happen? I repeated, my anger boiling over. You've been lying to me for months, working in a strip club, having an affair with the woman who got you fired, and you expect me to believe this was just a mistake? Laura broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I was scared, Jake. I thought if I told you the truth, you'd leave me. Well, congratulations, I said coldly, because I don't know if I can stay after this. Over the next few days, I couldn't look at her without feeling a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I thought about confronting Vanessa, but what would that accomplish? The damage was already done. Then came the final straw. Rob, the friend who had convinced me to go to the club in the first place, sent me a text. Dude, I didn't know how to tell you, but I think you should see this. Attached was a photo, Laura and Vanessa, in what looked like a private room at the club. They were sitting close, laughing, and the way Vanessa's hand rested on Laura's thigh told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just a fling. This was something deeper, something I couldn't compete with. The photo from Rob was the final nail in the coffin. I stared at it for what felt like hours, trying to understand how my life had come to this. Laura wasn't just hiding a secret, she was living an entirely separate life. The woman I thought I knew, the one I loved and trusted, was gone. In her place was someone I didn't recognize, someone who had lied to me for months while building something with someone else. I spent the night drinking. The picture burned into my mind. The way Vanessa looked at Laura, the way Laura laughed like she didn't have a care in the world. It was too much. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal itself or the fact that she hadn't even tried to stop. The next morning, I confronted Laura one last time. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her face puffy from crying, but I didn't feel any sympathy. I'd spent the entire night trying to piece together what to do, and I finally had my answer. I saw the photo, I said, tossing my phone onto the table. Rob sent it to me. She looked at the screen and immediately burst into tears. Jake, Don't, I said, cutting her off. I've heard enough excuses. You've been lying to me for months. You've been cheating on me, not just physically, but emotionally too, and you didn't even have the decency to tell me the truth. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. I was scared, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to lose you. You lost me the moment you started this, I said coldly. You lost me when you decided to betray me and then lie about it. I stood up, my decision clear. I want you out, Laura. Today. Laura begged me to reconsider, but I was done. I couldn't live with someone who had destroyed my trust so completely. She packed her things and left later that day, and for the first time in years, the house felt silent. Empty. The first few weeks were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the pain. But every night, the silence crept in, and I'd find myself staring at the walls, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. I started drinking more than I should, trying to numb the ache in my chest. Friends reached out, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. The shame, the anger, the sadness. It was all too much. One night, as I sat on the couch with a bottle of whiskey, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. Laura had made her choices, and I had to make mine. I couldn't let her betrayal define me or ruin the rest of my life. It wasn't easy, but I decided to start rebuilding. I sold the house, it held too many memories, and moved into a smaller apartment downtown. I started going to therapy, something I never thought I'd do, and it helped me untangle the mess of emotions I'd been carrying. Slowly, I began to find myself again. Looking back, I realize I ignored so many red flags because I didn't want to believe the worst about Laura. I wanted to see her as the perfect wife, the woman I fell in love with, even when the signs were screaming at me to wake up. If I've learned anything from this, it's that trust is everything. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to get back. I also learned that no matter how much you love someone, you can't make them love you the same way. Love has to be a two-way street, built on honesty and respect. To anyone reading this, my advice is simple. Don't ignore your instincts. If something feels off, pay attention. And if someone betrays you, don't let it destroy you. Take the time to heal, to rebuild, and to find your own strength. You're worth it. As for me, I don't know if I'll ever get married again. But for now, I'm focused on myself and what comes next. One day at a time. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you have given her another chance, or was walking away the right choice? Let me know.